Nickelodeon has had a long series of weird crossover games, where they usually just bring a load of the cartoons they own just for a big random mashup. There's things like Nicktoons Unite, the 3 different kart races, which is given us Zuko in a go-kart, and most recently the Nickelodeon All Star Brawl series. A lot of people probably didn't even know that this one's a series now. I even forgot about it in my video talking about Smash Bros recently. The first game came out in 2021 and received a mixed reception, to put it lightly. Everyone complained about the game's balance, lack of voice acting, and the overall cheap feeling. So the game was all but forgotten about by the time that Hugh Neutron DLC came out. Then, just a year after the last bit of DLC released, the second game in the series came out, Nick All Star Brawl 2. 2 games in 2 years, when the first game was notably unfinished and unpolished, while selling DLC prioritised over fixing their mistakes, published by a company called GameMill, basically openly admitted their quantity over quality approach to games. Before the game even came out, the writing looks like it was on the wall. It was looking like the game was going to just be a recycled mess of everything in the first game, with maybe a few sprinkles on top to rinse a bit of extra money out of the name. But somehow, this game has completely turned it around after just a year of real dedicated development. There's a good few different single player modes, a roguelike campaign with a few different cutscenes set up, and an actual story mode. Movesets have also been completely revamped, and mechanics like dodge rolls and aerial dodges are in, even though they probably should have been in the first game, but better late than never. And they've also added the slime meter, which basically acts as a super meter and let you perform a final smash, a bunch of other things I haven't worked out how to do yet. They've only gone and added voice acting as well. Oh yeah, and Jimmy Neutron's in instead of his dad. But the best part of the game is easily Garfield. For some reason, in Nick All Star Brawl, Garfield is Fox from Smash Bros. Which, if you've seen any competitive melee, you know is so funny. They based Garfield on a character which is one of the best in all of platform fighter history, and has a literally unlimited skill ceiling. He's got a shine where he turns into old Garfield, he throws pies instead of lasers. He's got Fox's down air drill, which turns into Falco's, which does a heavy attack. And then, when you fill the lasagna meter, Garfield goes all out and literally gets all of Fox's speed and somehow becomes a fast faller. I don't understand how they made such a fun character and then hid it behind a meter. So how and why was the first Nick Brawl game so underwhelming and disappointing, while the second one, made in just a year, is so packed with content and is somehow unique and fun? It also looks like they want to use this game to lean into the competitive scene other platform fighters have been able to tap into for their success and longevity. They've even got some rollback netcode to give them a better online than Smash Bros. It's almost suspicious how they were clearly massively underfunded and rushed for the first game. And now for the second game, the developers, Fair Play Labs, were clearly able to do what they wanted with all the funding that they needed. Suspicions got even more worrying when I looked into the publisher, GameMill Entertainment. Last year, GameMill published 3 of the worst games of the year, all of which had massive IPs attached to them. Avatar, The Quest for Balance, Skull Island, The Rise of Kong, and The Walking Dead Destinies. They've even made games for Frozen and made what is widely considered the worst game of all time, Big Rigs Over the Road Racing. All of these games were awful and ended up getting negative publicity, but with all of these there had to be huge costs attached due to the license fee for the IPs. Which obviously brings the question, where do they get this insane amount of money from? It's clear that GameMill has some ill-gotten gains that they are trying to launder through the publishing of these poor quality, rushed out licensed games. They spend all their money that could be used for a game's development just buying a big name to attach to it. hoping that that name will be enough to give them clean money on the other side of the release. Well, that was their methods of laundering money before. After noticing the success of the first Nickelodeon All Star Brawl, coming in spite of its low quality, they pumped a lot more money into the sequel to overall improve it. Then they pushed for the inclusion of more competitive mechanics, like hazard-free stages, slime, actually usable online play, and Garfield. This makes me think that GameMill wants to use the game's competitive scene to launder money through now. Instead of taking the risk of tricking people into making poor life choices on Steam and actually buying their games, they will instead pump money into a competitive scene, which can help them make money through the game's extra sales and longevity, while they can charge entrance fees for huge tournaments that they can clearly afford to put on, with prize money for these tournaments coming from GameMill's illicit side quests. This is of course all a game theory, but considering GameMill's history, it wouldn't be very surprising if in just a few years' time I'm proved right in this, and GameMill's ties to the cartel are all revealed in some insane Vice documentary.